What's the real difference between a title and a name? It sounds simple, right? But this one little distinction is, well, it's kind of at the very heart of the scriptures. And as we're about to see, getting this right can completely change how you think about God. Think about it. When someone asks for your name, they're not asking what you do, they're asking who you are. It's about your fundamental identity. Exactly. Your personal name, that's you. Everything else, doctor, father, boss, whatever it is, those are just titles. They're roles we play. They describe a relationship, but they aren't our core identity. So the key takeaway here is super simple. A name is who you are. A title is what you do. Okay, so let's take that really simple personal idea and apply it to one of the most significant names in all of history. We're going to unpack why understanding this difference is, frankly, a game changer. Here's the thing. The biblical account suggests that God never wanted to be known just by a bunch of titles. Just like you have a name, the argument goes that God actually revealed his own personal name, inviting people into a real personal relationship. And this is the pivotal moment, right? Moses is there at the burning bush, and he asks the most logical question in the world. Who are you? He knew the Israelites wouldn't be satisfied with a title like God of your fathers. They needed a name. And God's answer wasn't a title like the Almighty or the Creator. Nope. He gave a personal name, YHWH. Now, because ancient Hebrew didn't really use vowels in its writing, we don't know the exact ancient pronunciation, but it's usually rendered today as Jehovah or Yahweh. This was his unique personal identifier.
And God himself put a huge exclamation point on it. He didn't say, "Here's my name for now." He said it was his name forever, the name he wanted to be remembered by for all time.
So just how important was this name to the people who wrote the Bible? Get this, it appears nearly 7,000 times in the original Hebrew scriptures. 7,000. That's not a typo. That is some serious emphasis. So if this name was so important, so central that it appeared 7,000 times, that begs a huge question. Where did it go? How did a name that was everywhere suddenly vanish from so many of our modern Bibles? Well, it wasn't an overnight thing. It was a slow process that happened over centuries. First, the name YHWH was revealed. But then, a human tradition started that said the name was too holy to say out loud. So to avoid saying it, scribes started swapping in the Hebrew word for Lord, which is Adonai. And then, way later, translators just made that practice official, replacing God's personal name entirely with the title Lord, usually in all caps. Now, the argument we're looking at makes a really bold claim right here. It says that this whole process, even if it started with good intentions, wasn't actually reverence. It was effectively suppressing God's name by replacing it with a generic title. In this substitution, it had consequences. Big ones. When you take out a specific name and pop in a general title, you create what you could call a theological fog. Meanings that were once crystal clear suddenly get murky. I mean, think about the most famous prayer in Christianity, right? Jesus taught his followers to pray, "Hallowed be your name." And that word hallowed, it just means to make something holy, to set it apart as special. So here's the million-dollar question. If God's personal name has been systematically taken out and replaced with Lord, a title that could refer to anyone from a human master to God himself, then what name is that prayer actually talking about? What name are we supposed to be setting apart as holy? To see just how confusing this gets, look no further than Psalm 110, verse 1. In the original Hebrew, the meaning is perfectly clear. Jehovah said to my Lord. It's a conversation between two different people. God, Jehovah, is talking to David's Lord, the future Messiah. But in so many translations, it reads, "The Lord said to my Lord." And just like that, the clarity is gone. Who is talking to whom? Is God talking to himself? Who are these two lords? That vital distinction that was so clear in the original is just lost in the fog. So you see, this is way more than just a little translation issue. It acts like a theological fog machine, actively hiding the relationships and identities that the original writers made so clear. So, what's the way out of the fog? Well, if substitution created the problem, then the solution, according to this line of thought, is restoration. We have to restore the name to restore clarity. And by doing that, restore true worship. Let's go back to that word from the prayer, hallow. What does it really mean? It means to set something apart as absolutely unique,
as holy, to treat it with the highest honor you possibly can.
And that leads to a really simple but profound conclusion. You just can't hallow something you don't know. You can't honor a name that you've removed from the conversation. From this point of view, taking out the name makes it impossible to do the very thing Jesus taught his followers to do.
And this isn't just about getting the ideology right, it's tied directly to the Bible's promise of salvation. Both the Hebrew and the Greek scriptures link salvation to calling on the name of Jehovah, not a title, the name. And maybe the final word on this should go to Jesus himself. He saw it as a central part of his mission, not to hide his Father's name, but to make it known. His entire ministry was about revealing, not concealing.
So when you clear away all that fog, all that tradition, the argument leaves us with something incredibly simple and profound. A personal, specific name, right there in the original text thousands of times. The very name Jesus said he came to make known. A name, not just a title.